So today, basically, we will talk about the Sitecore Commerce part. We'll start with the basic part, like how you can start your development part, including the dev machine setup, and then we'll see the base component and the plugins within the Sitecore Commerce, and then from there we'll discuss about what is the possibility and how we can customize the Sitecore Commerce and what all are the extension points available. Okay, so let's get started then. So a little bit intro about from my side. Let me put here. Okay, so I have been working in the IT industries almost 13 years now. 7 years I have been working in the Sitecore. Worked on 8 Sitecore project, 5 project that includes Sitecore XP and XC. I worked on search part, mostly Solar Cloud, Azure, CoView, and the Fusion. For the Sitecore Commerce, I work on 8.2.1, where we were using the Microsoft Commerce with the Sitecore Commerce. And I work on the 9.1, 9.2, 3, and recently we are planning for 10.0. I'm also Sitecore certified, Microsoft Technology Specialist, CoView certified, also certified from Google for GTM, and e-commerce analytics. I'm living in Sydney, awarded from the President in 2000, state level winner for the Genius Student Award. So before starting, I would like to discuss about the community that Sitecore community is really very helpful for helping in any query, any question. So if you want to learn more about the Sitecore Commerce, so these are the points and links I just posted here, so we can take a reference from there. So I have been also blogging in like almost 10 years now, and there are a few selects and stake exchange teams here. So if you post anything there, I would encourage that join the select community. You will instantly get the response if you have any query. I'm also actively checking all the messages there. Okay, so this is the agenda for today. We'll discuss about the architecture flow, the high-level flow with the Sitecore Commerce, and second point we'll discuss if you want to start the Sitecore Commerce development, how quickly you can set up your machine and get it done and start developing the plugin. Third one, we'll discuss about the Commerce key features. That includes shopping cart, inventory, order checkouts, entitlement, pricing, so fulfillment, promotion, and the catalog and payment. And then we'll discuss about how we can extend the commerce entity, very specific with the sellable items, and then we'll discuss about the order, customer, and other entities. And at the last, we'll discuss about extending in plugin and one simple example that how we can create a new plugin and extend it. Okay, so this is the high-level architecture flow with the Sitecore Commerce. If you see a blue highlighted part, I have kept gift card promotion. So these are the main plugins within the Sitecore Commerce. And down the line, you can see I have added a few connector and I added a name called integration. So these are the this would be the integration point where we can plug in the integration and then we can extend the Sitecore Commerce plugin, right? Let's an example. Inventory, you want to keep this inventory from a third-party system. If you want to get the sellable items from a third-party system, you want to send this order in the backend system to manage the fulfillment. And here at the left side, I have mentioned that Content Hub, which is again a very interesting topic in Sitecore 10. Now there is a connector available with a limited functionality where you can manage your product related information in the Content Hub, and then you can push those information in the Sitecore Commerce system, right? So that's the high level view, and then we'll discuss about the local development environment setup. So once you start your XC setup, make sure that you would be working on the .NET Core, and when you start your debugging, your local system should be pointing to your local storefront, and the authoring, which is localhost, you can see 5,000 point. This is very basic, and the Sitecore installation, I think now XP is very straightforward. You can install in a few click, and for XC, now it's all the scripts are available. But just to make sure if you are stuck, I have added a few reference points here. So you can get the reference from these blogs, and these people, they are actively blogging on the Sitecore Commerce in case of any issue in terms of installation and to set up your local environment. So that's your first point of contact. Now adding the property to the sellable items, right? So I'm sure that we are here, like all of us know about the basic part of the commerce. So sellable items are basically the product, right? So when we import that product or we create that product in the XC system, there are a few options if you want to extend the property, right? One is the code first approach, where when you run that import process, your code, your import process will create the property at the runtime. So that's the first point. The second point is there is a concept called entity composer, right? So in the entity composer, from the front end, we can create the properties, we can define the field, and we can define the field types, and then we can link those entity composer with the sellable items or maybe the customer entity. So that's the two options. So I go to the next. So this is about the architecture, but before going to that, I will just pause it here, and then I will just provide you a walkthrough that how we can configure this composer entity and how we can plug in this composer entity with the order entity. So let me. Okay. I hope you guys can see my screen. So I have just set up this vanilla instance just before this meetup. So when I'm saying the composer entity, basically this is the XP vanilla instance. If I go to the business tools, okay, so this business tools, we know that it's like a authoring part for the XC where we can manage all the order, where we can also manage all the sellable items, customer informations. So that's like authoring the way, like the type we have for XP. It's for the XC. So let me refresh this again. Okay, while it's taking time, let me resume the presentation and then I will come back. Okay, so we were discussing about this thing here. So composer entity is like, it's ad hoc entity which provide us an options which if you want to add any more details, let's say on the order, we can runtime, we can create a new field and definition, and we can associate those things with the order and sellable items, right? So this is more about the architecture with the XC platform. So XC is following the plugin architecture. Um, I put 10 points, but I think at the high level, if I can try to explain, it's like plug in and play. So we have to follow the all guidelines with the XC platform, the structure we need to follow, and you can create your custom versions of the application without modifying the source code of the XC platform. Third-party integration we can easily do. All the plugins are available. We just need to override the pipelines, or we need to replace those pipelines. Interfaces are there, so we can easily leverage those interfaces to plug in our classes. So yeah, that's it. I go to the next one. So there are a few benefits with the architecture. If you see the speed, we can do the rapid development. So let's say if you are working in a team, each team member can pick a few plugins and they can work parallelly. Isolation, it's a plugin can coexist. So the same thing which I just talked about, we can work together. Stability, Sitecore uses the same framework to deliver the feature. So it's a mature framework. So even for the Sitecore new feature, they are using the same framework to provide the new options. It's very flexible. It's creating your own plugins with the third party. It's very straightforward. Let me check if that's available now. Okay, still it's thinking. I think I put some changes here. If not, I just try to run this from local, so we got some reference issue. So that's fine. I will continue with the presentation now, and then we'll come back again. Okay, so now from here, there are a few things which we need to understand before if you're planning to extend any of the plugin, right? So the entities is the base of the Sitecore XC platform. So when I'm saying the entity, it's like a POCO model which has the default fields and the properties which you can see created by updated by. So these are the default fields, and here is the description, right? So we have flat fields like namespace, ID, and the name, but we also have a multi-list like the policy and the components. So the way it works is if you want to extend any of the XC entities, so one way is either we can add the fields in the traditional way, or we can create our custom component which will have the custom model which will keep additional value, and then we can add that component with the entity. So in whole XP and XC recycle the flow, we can insert that component, we can attach that component data with the entity, and then we can store in the database. So it will persist with the entity. So these are the two options. Now, how the order entity looks like, right? So let me check again. Okay, it didn't work, but that's fine. So if you see in the database, so when we create, so there are a few database, right? So one, we have the shared environment, and then we have the global. So in the shared, we have all the details for the entities. Let's say for the customer entity and inventory, catalog, and the order. So I just created a few order. So if I want to see the order, I'll just open here. So this entity will be stored here like in the JSON format. Uh, so if I put this entity here, if I view this entity, so you can see the order entity has a few fields like properties here, and the order will also have the line items. So the item which I have added like is a part of the order, the total sections and the adjustment, and this is the list of the component, right? So if you want to add any new component and if you want to add more details and attach to the order, we'll create a new component and we'll add to the order entities. The same way we can add with the cart, or same way we can add with the other entities. Okay, let me try this again. Hopefully it should work now. Okay, so I think there's some issue or something here. It's not getting the name. Okay, I will continue with the presentation, and then we'll at the last we'll try to see if it works, and I will explain that part. Okay, so from here, so the entity, like all the order details, it's type of POCO model which Sitecore saves in the database, and it gets and keep persistent in the applications, right? The same way, when we create a customer entities, it also is store as an entity and is stored in the database. And I just mentioned the customer flow, that when we create a new customer, then it save the data in the contact in the XDB, and then enter a new entity in the set environment, and then it also update the customer index. Okay, so for the extensibility point of the component, as I said here, this components, we can define our own component with our own property, and then we can attach that component with the entities. So the component basically, it has a structure for supporting the composable extensibility. We can add the component whenever we need. So let's say if I'm processing my order and I'm converting from cart to order, I can attach component to the cart, and when I do the conversion, I can get that component, all the additional details, and I can add or attach that component with the order entity. Even add component at runtime if required, we can do that. Add remove component from the entity as required, typically used to trigger business actions, and only one type of component is allowed per entity. So per entity we can add only one type of component, but we can add multiple component with different type of so from the extensible point, I have mentioned 2 points here. Either we can create our own complete pipelines, and we can initialize that pipelines with the DI, and we can put our own pipelines. And in the second point, I have mentioned that we we can replace the existing pipelines. So in the second section, I tried to replace the order place pipelines, and I overwrite that pipelines with my custom classes, and I regenerated new custom order number from there. I will explain you once my system will be up and running. And now the policies in the XC, again, it's in a JSON format where we can define all the input parameters, and these parameters goes in the database when we do the bootstrap, and runtime we can change the inputs. So it's a centralized policy store using the abstract entity storage. Worker process only need a link to the policy store to bootstrap, and publishing workflow without moving the data. Policy are heavily cased and rarely change. So if you want to change any policy, we have to do the bootstrap. then again it will refresh the DB, and then you need to restart it, and then it will comes in the picture. Policy can have attached rule to deliver and the personalization policies. Now this is the minions. Minions are playing the main role when we are processing in the backend system. It's like backend services. When we place the order, if you want to send this order to a backend system, or if you want to do a cleaning task, if you want to update the index, reindex, and if you want to get data from third party and want to update in our system, then usually we use the minion. For the sample plugins, let me see if it is my system is up and running again. Still didn't work. Just give me a minute.
Jitendra Piyush here.
Yeah, hi, Pius.
Yeah, actually, the issue you are facing right now, like Biz tool is not loading properly. So in the console, there is a, for a get request that was not, getting successfully. So in that case, what you can do, just you open any one of that link in the new tab, and they will ask you to some security, and then you load the page again. So it will work. Same issue I had in my system, and it is working in my case. So I
Okay.
think, yeah.
Let me share my screen. I think let's see. We can try if that works. It works. So let me try it here. Okay, I think some issue with my. No. Okay, I think it's loading. I can just provide you the walkthrough. Okay. Okay. Anyways, I think let's. I think we have less time, so the way we would create a plugin. So I just created this. This is out of the box customer sample solution, which comes with the installation part. So basically, we can keep this as a reference point of view, and then once you start your development, you'll define your helix structure, feature foundation, and the project. So I just created one uh, plugin here, which is called the order, and that will generate the new order number when we place a order from the system, right? So, so the way it works is you first define the policy. So the policy, you can keep the same naming convention based on your project, and then you will define the policy name and all the namespace of your policy, and then you will pass the policy type, what is the environment, and this is like what inputs we would need when we execute that policy. So when we do the bootstrap, this policy will goes in the DB, and on the runtime, we'll get this data in our plugin system. So that's one part. Now the second part is in the configuration Sitecore part. Basically, let me increase the site. So here I'm trying to replace the I order pipeline. So if you see, I'm using this interface and I'm replacing the order place assigned confirmation ID block with my custom order generator block. So once I do that and I will run this one, then this particular class will be executed and this will replace the existing plugin pipelines. And in this particular block, if I go in my pipelines in the block, what I'm doing here is that just for sample purpose, I created this one and I'm inheriting from the pipeline block, which is the order, and again the order, and then the commerce pipeline execution context, which will give me the context. And once this processor will run, here I'm generating a custom order number, which is I just kept a simple number, which would be the extension of XX, and whatever order entity ID I'm getting, I'm just subtracting with, let's say, -7 and 9. So this will return a new order number, and when I place the order, it will just override the existing pipeline. So that's the simple way of overriding the pipelines. And let me try. I think something went wrong. It shouldn't be the issue. Let me start this again. Okay, so let me share this presentation again, and I will keep an eye on this one. Okay, so we were discussing here about the plugin. So here is one blog which I wrote where I mentioned all the steps that if you want to create a new plugin, how we would do that. And after that, I think these are the few scenarios where we would need to extend the Sitecore comments. So the few example, like if you want to keep more values on the sellable entity, then you'll create a composer entity or through the code. If you want to keep more details on the order, let's say invoice related details, then your minion job will run, will get the data and update the orders. Same with the card entity. You would need to extend in your development part. Inventory extension and promotions, search functionality, it's common. You would need to generate a computed field, or we can use the SX extension. Wish list functionality, membership based discounted price, and third party payment integration. So for the third party payment integration, I think we take here. So with the plugin, with the default plugin, if you see, we have this the solution item in the source. We have this out of the box brain tree plugin. So I use this with two third-party payment integration. So basically, you can see all the pipelines are here. When we create a payment, when we capture the payment, and when we release the payment, so this comes with a out of the box SDK. If you want to override it, basically we would need to configure here. We can put all our custom classes, like when we do the create federated payment block, which will keep the payment related information, and if there's a refund, we can put the refund block. So this is like a blueprint if we want to integrate with any of the payment provider. So that's a type of sample plugins, and which we can use to leverage the extension. Let me see again. Still didn't work. Then close this whole thing. just before the presentation, I was just trying to, put this order pipelines, and I just refreshed this. I just did a bootstrap, so maybe something goes wrong. So I won't take much time. I think that's more precious. So let me continue with this slide. And so there are a few things. If you want to extend, let's say, promotions, let's say for any custom qualification or custom benefit, this way you can extend it. And yeah, I think that's all. I was about to explain you the plugin, but that didn't work. But I'm happy to discuss if you have any questions so far till the time this one is loading.
I have a question here.
Yeah.
In the engine solution, can we create a user?
Sorry, user means the customer, right?
No, see, there is a relationship, right? Customer and user has a relationship, right?
Yes. Mhm.
See, we have a external system SAP, so that SAP system will give us XML, okay? So
Mhm.
where there are some customers are created in that SAP system, so I
Mhm.
need to make the same customer as a login in customer.
Mhm.
So we are able to create a customer using the persistent entity, but uh, can we create a user as well in the engine alone?
Uh, for user, there is a plugin available, but I'm not too sure whether there is options to extend it. But you can create our own plugin, and we can insert that user in our same DB. Basically, it keeps you in contact, right? So the way Sitecore actually work is there are 3 points for the user. One is the when user goes in the core database, contact
Correct.
goes in the XDB, and it also updates the Solar index. If I can show you here. So yes, you can leverage the same thing, but you would need to write a custom code for that. If you have to go to there.
Because when I use one of the plugin for a customer, okay, it says because provider service providers are not there, right? We don't have a service providers or Xconnect not connect configurations are not there, right, in our engine. So it was
Mhm.
expecting that particular connection strings I do in the engine solution.
Okay. I think it exists, but maybe let me check, or maybe I will get back to you. I will post my contact details, and maybe I will check and get back to you. Okay. Any more question, guys? Sorry, this demo didn't work, but I just wanted to take the question. So
In the storefront site, we were not able to load the product flow. So what can be the issue? Like,
so for product, you mean so basically,
elaborate.
yeah. So basically, this is very common thing. So I would suggest few things. If you can't see the product, so product basically you first need to make sure that your product exists in the master DB. So if you just go here and go to that item.
I can see the catalog and under that the product in the content
Yeah,
type.
yeah. So if you can see there, just search by either group ID or by the full path. If you can see that item in the Solar index, then try to refresh the case, uh, update the catalog, and the most common reason would be you need to run the update content sync path. So maybe some category and sellable items. Maybe when you did the import, there could be some mismatches. So you need to run that sync item path.
Where can I run that?
So um, in the postman there is a three command. You can sync the item, you can sync the item path, and then there is one more command for the sync. So once first you sync the item, you will get the version ID. You need to copy that version ID and when next time when you do the content item sync part, you have to provide the same version ID. Then it will sync your item. So sometimes you may create. So if you go here on your sellable items, right? You can create a new version, right? And maybe in the XP you won't see that version, so there could be mismatch in the version, right? So in that case, you would see the same data in the index, but because of the version, it won't show you. So you need to sync that same version through the Postman.
Is that mandatory, like to through Postman to sync?
Ideally, it should be sync, but sometimes it won't sync. So we usually prefer, it's like uh, it will update all, the references. It's like when you change in the policy or something, you do the bootstrap. So it's not mandatory. It should work ideally when you do any versions. Okay.
But
Okay.
here
So
I didn't see products in the solar indexes.
yeah, if you can't see products in the solar index, then you need to check your solar logs. Maybe you have created a few properties in a different section with the same name, or maybe there's an issue if you have any computed fields, it's not getting indexed, not pushing the data in the solar index. So you should. So first point is the data should be available in your solar index. So that's the first thing. Okay, I think it's available now. We'll quickly check the composer template and let me know if you have any questions, guys. So the composer entity, I was talking about this one. So we can create a new template. We can keep a name as a demo dot uh, order, let's say, and I will give it a name, let's say demo order, and the view name would be this one. I will create a new template. Okay, not allowed name. So we'll give name equal to 123. Okay, so this is one entity which we have created. Now, if I go inside this one, I will create a new fields property. Let's say invoice details or something. Invoice details, and this was the display name. Property type, let's say string. Okay, so now we have created a new composer entity and we created a new fields. Now, if I go here and I will link this composer entity, so I can link with multiple existing entities. So these are the out of the box entity. So if I want to link this with the order, and if I click yes, then when I go to the order, I would see this is my released order. So here, field which we have created, we should be able to see that field here. So order entities is there, payment is here. So this is the demo order, right? So now we just extended this through the composer template. And if you want to edit this view, we can go and add this, some link of the invoice or some test data. So this is something we can update from the backend system. And this update part, if I can show you here. So when we do this edit view, it basically makes a call for get entity view, which will accept as a this as entity details. So if you want to use this from the backend system to update this entity, so you need to. So again. Okay, so you can pass the same as a part of the request, and you can make a call for this one, get entity view. With this request, it will give you the data, and when you do the update, it will give you the two UXXN call where we can send the same data and we can update the value. So if you have a third-party system running in the backend system, of course you will use the minion job to update it, but if you don't have the context, complete context of the commerce, so this is where you can use get entity view and you can update to these all entities. Okay, so that's for the entity. I think let me know if you have any questions, guys. Any more questions from anyone?
What are the demerits of using this composer entity?
So one thing is when we use this composer entity, so there is no any out of the box options where you can expose this from one environment to the another environment, right? So let's say if I'm creating this on my local machine, we can't export and import it. For that, you need to write your so import is there, export is there, but import is not there. So you need to write the controller. I think one of in the community the code is already aware. So you need to plug in our system, and then it will work. Apart from that, I don't think so. There is any issue while using the composer entity.
You know plumber?
Yes.
Yes. So you suggest to go with the plumber or with the composer?
Plumber, I recently started working on that, but I would go with the composer because I have been working on that, so that's very straightforward.
We had some, we discussed with Sitecore, okay. So they were telling not to use this composer, so you better go with a plumber because plumber is just a decorative on one component creation. It will be simple. So customization for localization and all it will help. But this composer has some limitation. That's what we got from Sitecore.
Yeah, I think to be honest, this composer entity is comes with the Sitecore platform, and I'm not too sure. Maybe Sitecore team, if they are saying there could be valid reason, right? So maybe I would need to check and compare with that. But if they are suggesting, should be valid reason. But I haven't much used that plumber. Any more question, guys? Okay. Okay, I think if we don't have more questions, Anita, I think
All right. Great. So I think, Jitendra, you have shared your contact details as well, right? At some point.
yeah.
You want to bring that up again?
Yep. Just share the contact details.
Yeah. So that if anyone has any questions even later, you can probably reach out to Jitendra. So his contact details are up on the screen, and you can reach out to him on LinkedIn as well. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jitendra, for taking the time, and thank you everyone for attending.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Thanks everyone.
Jitendra.
Bye.
you.